Do you really need a business plan? I don't think so. So, in today's conversation, I want to explain to you why you don't need a business plan, or you might not need a business plan, depending on the niche you're in. So, here are the top reasons. If you are thinking about a business plan and you're thinking about 50 pages, 1,000 pages, 100 pages, chances are you may not need one. Okay, you don't even need a one-page business plan. So here's the number one reason why you may not need you may not really need a business plan. Investors don't want to see one. See, the thing is, investors are flooded every single day with business plans, pitches. Okay, they have tens, hundreds, if not thousands of documents sent to them from startups, from incubators, and whatnot. So the thing is that investors just want to really want you to answer one key question: What are you offering? What's the problem? And how are you bringing a solution to the market? And why should they care about your business model? So if you can really encapsulate that thoughts into a one line or two lines or even a 2 minute pitch, that's it. You don't need a business plan. Okay. So investors do not want to see one. It's one of those things where if you go to a Y Combinator, if you go to Y Combinator meetings, they will tell you that, hey, listen, investors are not really interested in having a detailed, formal business plan that actually that really articulates your story. If you're able to articulate everything in 1 minute or 2 minutes, that's definitely fine. So that's the first reason. The first reason is that the investors, who are primarily the primary target audience for a business plan, don't want to see one. And this actually applies to VC firms, venture capital firms. Okay. The second reason is that running one business plan takes time and money. I mean, I don't care if you want to really use the business plan software. You still have to pay 20, 30, or $40 every single month. Okay. Whether you go with Biz Plan or Live Plan or Go Small Biz, among others. Okay. Or if you have to hire, let's say, to hire someone like a company to write your business plan, that's still going to cost you money, even if you do it yourself. Even if you do it yourself, or you have a team in-house to actually write the business plan, it's still money because you have to pay those people. Or if you're doing it yourself, you're still allocating your time and resources to actually writing that business plan. So writing one business plan takes time and money. That's the second top reason why you don't need a business plan, especially if you are a startup and you're trying to really and you're counting every penny in your budget. You don't need a business plan. Another reason why you don't need a business plan is that you will need to pivot anyway. I mean, it's one of those things where I think I started saying that if you are in an industry that's actually going through market gyrations all the time, then you do not want to have a business plan that becomes outdated tomorrow. Like, you just write the business plan today, and tomorrow the market shifts, and then your plan that you spend hours, if not days, writing has become useless. Okay, so you might need to pivot anyway, because the industry is going to tell you, or consumers will tell you, or your competitors will tell you. Okay, so startups and early stage companies almost always change direction as the team learns more about what's possible and what customers really want. So the moment that you execute a pivot, your business plan becomes useless at best and an impediment at worst, right? So just as important, an effective pivot requires management attention that would be wasted updating your business plan in the first place. And also, another reason why you don't need a business plan is that planning can be an excuse for inaction. I mean, you know the whole thing about analysis paralysis. You do not want to have your startup or your established business wasting very, very valuable hours or days, and let's say analyzing something that is not going to happen anyway. Okay, so it's important that as you pivot, you do not want to really focus your attention on the wrong item. So planning can be an excuse for inaction. And the last reason why you don't need a business plan is that it can really limit your thinking, because see, a business plan by definition is a structured document. So once you write a structured document, and you follow the structure in that document, you are structuring your thoughts too, and you are limiting your thinking. And you do not want to be in that position where you are limiting your thinking. Okay. So, yeah, maybe it's just better to get away from it. Even the best business plan can only reflect your best perspective and understanding of the situation at the time you wrote it, right? At the time you wrote it. And things change. Times are different, okay? So since there's no education like experience, once you have arrived at now, the idea you had then are usually naive and half baked. So when you think about reasons why you don't need a business plan, let me give you a few market considerations. The reason I want to really go about the market, I want to talk about the market considerations is that you have a pretty shifting field, okay, and things are changing all the time. You have gyrations, market gyrations, but you have competitor behavior. So basically, here are a few reasons why you might not need a full-fledged business plan. So minimal funding required. So if you are starting let's say a small business with minimal startup cost and primarily relying on personal funds, a detailed plan might seem unnecessary. You also have a highly flexible business model. So if your business concept is very adaptable and likely to pivot, as I said a little earlier, pivot frequently, a rigid business plan might not be the best fit, especially if you are in an industry that's constantly shifting to new trends. And you also want to test the market first. I mean, this is a pretty important market considerations to think about. So if your business is focused on testing a new product or service concept in a small market, a simple plan to validate the idea might suffice before committing to a full business plan. Also, if you have a personal project with limited scope, then you don't really need a business plan. Okay, if your business is primarily a personal side hustle, let's say with no intention to scale significantly, a detailed plan might not be needed, at least at the beginning. Okay, if you don't have time or expertise, you don't need a business plan like a full-fledged. And also, if you have basic financial projections, in other words, if you do not want to have something complicated when it comes to financial statements, if you don't think about having, let's say, a balance sheet, a projected balance sheet, a projected income statement, a projected cash flow statement, all that kind of stuff, then it's just better to really dodge the whole business plan thing. Okay. Also, one thing I want to say here is that if you don't have a clear vision of where you're going, okay, let's say you have no clear goals or no clear objectives, it's just better not to have a business plan, at least at the beginning. Let me give you other factors to really think about, other factors that could really influence why your decision not to have or to have a business plan. The very first thing is that think things never go as planned. Let's say you just started your business today. You had a whole idea about what you want to do, what kind of product you want to have, what kind of service you want to have, and you just go to market and you realize that, hey, listen, the market is giving you a different vibe, different answer from the answers you thought were right at the beginning. That's going to change your thinking. Okay, so things never go as planned. I mean, maybe you started in one state, started in Jersey, then you realize that the revenue, the market opportunity, is more in Illinois, or is more in New Mexico, is more in California, or is even more. It's more internationally. So when you hit that, when you are in a situation where you realize that you are going to shift, you are going to pivot, then you don't need a business plan. So things never go as planned. Okay, and so a business plan assumes that you know things that you don't know yet, and that no one should expect you to know yet. Right? There is no way you are going to know what will happen in your business in 5 or 10 years. There is no way. No way. I don't care if somebody gives you a time machine or a crystal ball, whatever. No, no, no. So there is also no room for experimentation. So business plans have a very set in stone, let's say, tone, if you will, when in reality, starting a business is more about making the best possible hypothesis about your product, about your prices, for instance, about your audience. Okay, you want to get out there and test it out and then reassess and change direction if needed. So basically, you should not really, let's say, you should not really put too much time, and no one should seriously ask you to write a 2 to 5 year projection plan of your business when you just only started. Because at the end of the day, when you really think about it, it's all trials and errors, right? It's all trials and errors. You are really going through a series of iterations and see what works and what doesn't. Another reason why you're not really you don't really need a business plan is that you're not exactly a board of directors. See, the whole thing is that a business plan is actually like a business plan calls for analysis at a higher level, at a level where you usually have let's say very sophisticated business owners, business men and women, and you have a different level of analysis. Okay, and you as one person, you don't really have this. I mean, maybe you do, but it's just better to spend your time elsewhere as opposed to writing a business plan. So business plans are still widely used in let's say informal corporate settings because it makes sense for them to exist in that setting. In other words, if you have a board of directors that needs to oversee several business lines, has to invest in several niches, or even has to choose whether or not a merger or acquisition is a good investment decision. Those people, those decision makers need to have a business plan because the business plan provides the context they need to make an informed decision. But if you are, let's say, one person or a two-person or a 10 person business, not really. So, it's one of those things where a business plan, for instance, include things like your loss and profit planning, key personnel that you plan on hiring, and all sorts of things aimed strictly at appealing to investors and then creating consensus among all directors, right? So that's an important element to think about. So do you really need that? Not really. Not really. You want to focus your efforts on something else, right? And simply because when you start, you're not big enough to have a board of directors. You're not big enough to actually, let's say, invite the kind of expertise that you'll find in the board of directors. So keep things simple from the get-go, especially when you're little. When you're small, you want to keep things very simple at the very beginning and take it from there. In other words, you grow as you will grow things as you grow along. Okay, it's one of those things where you are able to again going back to a word that I love a lot. You're able to pivot at the right moment. One thing I want to share with you also is the 3 by 4 makes 12. There is a very famous rule that says that 3 by 4 makes 12, and it's a rule that really is applicable across the board. It doesn't matter about it doesn't matter what geography you find yourself in, what kind of business stage you're in right now, whether you're early stage, seed stage, or established business stage. Okay, so planning a year into your business is too far in advance. It's really too far. So instead, what you want to do is that, going back to what I said, the 3 by 4 makes 12 rule, you should really reassess your business goals every 3 months. Every 3 months. That means what? You have a quarterly routine, right? So 3 by 4, quarterly routine, where every 3 months you sit down and review your progress and what to focus on in the next 3 month period. This is more, if you think about it, this is much more efficient because it allows you to really have, let's say, some clarity in terms of goal setting. It lets you be more flexible also. This process lets you be more flexible and adjust if something comes up, especially if something comes up in a very competitive market, okay? And one thing I want to say here is that when it comes to the 3 by 4 makes 12 rule, You have to understand that you have a lot more autonomy. You have a lot more freedom. You have a lot more, let's say, independence in terms of tweaking things, tweaking strategies that don't work or that don't seem to work, and really changing things as you go along, right? And this is kind of cool, especially if you have to respond not only to investors, but you have to respond to other key stakeholders, such as, let's say, regulators, for instance. So if you are in healthcare, for instance, or you are in hospitality in the restaurant industry, those are pretty heavily regulated industries. You might have to respond to regulators often, and that's when the 3x4 makes 12 rule helps you a lot, because it helps you stay relevant to the industry, but it also helps you stay compliant to compliant over time, really. Also, the thing here is that the reason why you don't need a business plan really is that you should really focus on what matters now. If you know the statistics, you know that startups are actually 90% of startups fail within 2 to 3 years after forming, or after actually forming, yeah, after forming. So the statistics are really against you. So if you're a startup, you do not want to really waste time actually writing business plan. You want to focus on what matters now. What matters now is actually you should really look for customers. You should really look to validate your business model. You should look to get feedback on a couple of important things. That's all you should really think about. Not about just writing a kilometric business plan. No, okay. Don't try to focus on everything at once. Focus on what matters now, not what matters 1, 2, or 3 years from now. I mean, it's one of those things where maybe 1 or 2 or 3 years from now, your business might not be around. I mean, your business might be just bankrupt or whatever. Okay, so most of us look up marketing strategies and all that kind of stuff on the internet. So it's really amazing that we have access to this kind of information, but it can leave you overwhelmed, right? You don't need to do everything. In fact, activities you need to do in order to grow your handmade shop, for instance, are not the same for everyone. Your business is different, right? Your customers are different. Their expectations are different. Your business model is different. The way you work, the way your team works, okay, that's really important. So you want to focus on what's important now, okay? What's important now. So one thing you want to understand is that what's important now is going to become a standard tomorrow if you do it right. Only do what's required for the stage of business you're in. Don't get ahead of yourself, and keep it simple. One little but meaningful step at a time, right? You want to cut out the rest because it's just noise and it doesn't help you right now. So focus on the right now. Be in the moment right now. In conclusion, to this conversation, I spoke to you about a few reasons why you don't need a business plan. I give you the top reason, the top 5 reasons. Also spoke about the market considerations, other factors, and finally, the conclusion. Thank you so much. God bless you. I will see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.